Thank you very much. We are talking about teen dating violence with Albany attorney Paul DerOhannesian of DerOhannesian and DerOhannesian Law Firm in Albany. And Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to see you, Dan.
It's good to see you too. Now, I didn't know this was a major issue, a major problem in the U.S.
Well, it kind of makes sense. When you see the increase in the growth of domestic violence, where does it come from? When you look at young athletes who are perpetrating domestic violence, they were teenagers just a few years ago. So it's definitely on the rise, and there's probably reasons for that.
So you're saying if you obviously come from domestic violence, you're most likely to repeat it.
Well, I think one of the more interesting studies is that if you grow up in an environment, a family where there's physical abuse or domestic violence, you're 4 times more likely to engage in domestic violence yourself. And that's why I think you're seeing an increase in domestic violence, which begins as a teenager in dating years. You're a product of that environment.
You know, you are an attorney. Do you represent? I mean, do you find yourself in some of those cases?
Sure. As an attorney, it's not just in the criminal area that you represent individuals, but also as victims of domestic violence, sexual abuse. You deal with many directly that way, as well as the consequences of that. Many individuals have been victimized through domestic violence, and I include not just parents, but also children. And I think that's what's most sad, is to see the children who are the victims of domestic violence.
What's the answer here? I mean, it seems like, you know, you can't really fix what's happening when they're seeing this happen. Can you put these people away and then fix this?
Yeah, I think there's been tremendous progress made in criminal law and in prosecuting people, but you're not going to prosecute your way out of this problem. I think that's one thing we're learning in this area. You have to deal with the causes of it. You have to intervene. You have to provide treatment as well as awareness. And I think that's the value of awareness programs. It helps develop the insight that's necessary to help people and break the cycle.
Does it make it worse? You've seen what's happened in the NFL. When people are watching what's happening with some of those players, does it make it worse? Does it make it even worse for them to repeat it?
Well, I think what the NFL has done is brought tremendous... When you see the major sport in this country say we have a problem, one of the first things Roger Goodell said last fall is we're not going to rely on the criminal justice system. We have to investigate. We have to take charge of how to handle these cases. And I think that's an important message, not relying simply on criminal justice to try to understand and bring justice. But again, when you see so many players involved in domestic violence, it makes you wonder, where did this start? And it started at a young age.
Now, you're talking about teen dating violence. These are teenagers. This probably affects them for the rest of their lives. I mean, the victims that.
It affects them as victims. It affects them in their relationships with individuals. And worse yet, if they believe that is normal, that that's acceptable, they're more likely to engage in it or accept it later on. And that's why it's a tremendously bad cycle.
So what do we need to invest in there? It's programs to try and rectify the situation at home?
And I think awareness, too. And that's where, again, the NFL program, while some people have been critical of it, the fact that it does bring awareness and discussion is extremely important. And also, I think, not relying too much, again, that the criminal justice system is going to be the solution. It's not the solution. It's part of the solution.
All right. So people need to be aware of what's happening and then try to fix it from there. But if you've been the witness of this stuff, you're more likely to repeat it. So it's almost like a cycle.
It is a cycle, and all the more reason for intervention early on and making sure that we fund programs that provide that type of intervention.
All right. Attorney Paul DerOhannesian from Albany, thank you so much this morning. Very good information. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right. More information on our website, WNYT.com. And we'll be right back with the day's top stories and the chart forecast. Stay with us.